Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror Volume 9, Day 12, coming at you live and direct. Alright, so we are going to take it from the US, and we're going to go a little bit south, down to Chile. This is a film that was released in 2017, I believe. By Artsploitation. Now, Artsploitation was a company that specifically put out films, like foreign films from around the world. They always did such a really good job with finding crazy-ass films from around the world that were either fucked up or just dealing with crazy narratives, and oh man. So, with that said, this is one of those films that, you know, back in the day I used to do a lot of reviews for Artsploitation, and I ended up getting this one way after the fact, and I just decided not to review it, and I kind of forgot about it. And then someone recently commented, have you seen Trauma, the Chilean film from called Trauma from 2017? And I said, you know what? I haven't seen that film before, but I own it. So whoever that was, thank you for putting that back into my mind. And so I put it into the 31 Days of Horror. So shout out to that person. And they also recommended another one I think I put into 31 Days of Horror also. But anyways, I digress. So yeah, from 2017, we have Trauma. Again, it's a film from Chile, so again, this is going to be another subtitled film. Alright, so getting to the premise and the synopsis of this one, basically it follows our four main characters. They're all women, and they head out to, you know, this secluded area out in the countryside to, you know, a place, a big kind of mansion out there to do some R&R, you know, some partying and stuff like that, just kick back, relax, and do their thing. One night they're sitting there, they're getting all drunk, doing some dancing and stuff, and these two people show up at the door. One's a father, one's a son. And they kind of make their way into the house, and then they proceed to like violently rape like three of the women. And you know, some shit goes down, some people don't live, and you know, they decide that they want to get the revenge against this father and son. And yeah, that's basically the premise of the film. Alright, so my thoughts on Trauma. Now, given that synopsis, it sounds very much like a typical rape revenge film. It's not really, because this movie is actually a huge political piece. It's kind of in the vein of stuff like a Serbian film and like Jörg Bergerite's Necromantic and stuff. Even those political agendas with those films was more about censorship. This one is actually showcasing a time in Chile where it was run by a dictatorship. And this is kind of like giving you idea of like the fallout, like, you know, the traumas that were passed down from, you know, the dictatorship that happened, and how it just basically infiltrates, you know, generations and beyond and stuff like that. So it's very interesting because I knew that Chile was a dictatorship from 1973, I think, till about 1990 is when it finally fell. It was ran by a military dude that rose through the ranks and stuff like that, become in power and created this dictatorship in Chile. His name was Augusto Pinochet. Augusto Pinochet. So he was a dictator from the early 70s into 1990 before it fell and stuff like that. And the deal with Augusto Pinochet was this guy was known for his brutality. So anybody that was against his dictatorship government basically fell victim to violence, torture, and death. Some people say that he killed anywhere from like a few thousand to 80,000 people during his reign, which is absolutely fucking flabbergasting. Now, it's brutal when you really think about it, because being him a military leader, you know, basically all his people had impunity. Like, there was no repercussions for anything that was being done in these times and stuff like that. So these generations of people were completely fucking just tortured and mentally distraught for, you know, until today. It's like kind of passed down. It's like mental illness. Sometimes it can kind of be passed down through generations and stuff. And, you know, once you've endured traumas and shit like that, and that's kind of what this film is really kind of doing and stuff. Yeah, so given that little bit of context, now I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on Chilean history. It does say it's based on a true story, so I'm assuming that this is just a fictional story within the true atrocities that actually happened in Chile and during that dictatorship and stuff like that. So, which, you know, kind of makes sense. I mean, if he was known for the torture and murder and rape and just brutality that, you know, he did, what they showcase in this film could have been what was happening. Yeah, with that said, this is a very, very brutal watch. I'm going to say that I'm not going to recommend this for people that are kind of aren't into very, very extreme films, especially films that are based on, you know, kind of real life events and stuff like that. It's brutal. It's brutal. If you're not a fan of Serbian film, you're not a fan of like Necromantic and those type of like really gory, just brutality type things, I'm not going to recommend it. But with that said, this is a very, very well-made film. It's acted well. It's beautifully photographed. The cinematography is fantastic in this. The music's great. It's got really kind of metaphorical transitions throughout the film. I really like the transitions with this bird that's rotting, and it's kind of metaphor for, you know, life and death, and, you know, the traumas and stuff like that are going on. It's very much wearing its metaphors on its sleeve, but it's there. All in all, man, this one is a tough watch. Right from the opening scene in this film, I have to talk about it. It's really fucking brutal. So basically, this film opens up with this boy. He's like a teenage boy. And he's being forced by his father, who is this military dude, to fuck his mother. Yeah, that's what I said. So going back to the whole Serbian thing, the whole incest thing, there's a contrast there. They're totally two different films. So this film opens up and he's forced to fuck his mom because his mom was basically kind of a traitor. Like, she wasn't a communist, or she was, I think she was being accused of being a communist. So anyways, he starts screwing his mom, and the father shoots the woman in the head, and the kid just proceeds to fuck the shit out of his mom. It's really brutal. So I was like, God damn, this film opens up with a bang, quite literally, man. I was like, holy flying fuck, man. What the hell is this shit? And it's graphic, dude. Like, I'm just like, brutal. Like, there's so much blood and gore and graphic violence in this film. With that said, you know, like, the effects are mostly practical. There's one scene where I caught a little bit of CG where this girl gets shot in the head and stuff like that. For the most part, it's pretty practical, pretty over the top kind of gore and stuff like that. And the body count's very, very high in this. There's got to be at least a dozen kills that are pretty nasty. So, but yeah, so that opening scene is actually, that prequel scene is actually very vindictive of the entire film that you're going to see, because that boy, he's the one that grows up to be the father in this film, and he's got a son, and he's doing the same atrocities within his family, right? There's incest going on. He's got his sister all tied. There's a really nasty kind of flashback scene in the film where the boy, it flashes back to when he's a boy, and his father makes him basically kind of do something to his infant sister, and it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. But again, the point of it is to show the contrast between what was going on during this dictatorship and the traumas that follow and be passed down through generations and stuff like that, and how they can be passed down to people that weren't living through the dictatorship and the atrocities that happened back in those days. So, yeah, so, you know, it's the metaphors in the film are there. The narrative is pretty nasty and brutal. It's a nasty way of showing shit, but when you have nasty shit that happen, what are you going to do? You're not going to play around. There's no strings pulled here at all. Yeah, the commentaries are very, very strong in this, and I really enjoy it. So, but yeah, so like the story of the father, who's this big rapist kind of military dude and stuff like that, he's all grown up now. It does flash back and tell these stories. I do kind of like the way it does, because it kind of adds a little bit of context, even though the beginning of the film really is probably all the context you really need for the film. But yeah, so my biggest problem with this film is, like I said, from the side of actual filmmaking, all the specs, all really well done. Beautiful film. I was shocked at how well photographed this film was. I thought it was gonna be a little bit more low budget, a little bit more gritty and stuff like that. No, it's crystal clear. It's got really good editing. Everything about the movie is really good. It just runs a little bit too long. I think that they could have done without a few scenes in this film. I'm not really gonna get into it, but I think it runs a little bit long. It runs about 107 minutes. Now, when I did Cannibal Mukbang the other day, that one ran about 103 minutes, and I felt like the storytelling was appropriate for it. I felt like there was a lot going on, but in this one, I think you kind of get the picture. It doesn't need to be prolonging itself. And my other little gripe with the movie is actually the way the third act is, because this film doesn't play out like your typical rape revenge film. Yes, there's rape and there is revenge, but it's, you know, in a sense, it's kind of cool the way it plays out. It's kind of poetic and satisfying at the same time, especially what happens with our main character here and, you know, the son and stuff, like the way he actually maybe does, maybe dies, maybe doesn't, kind of thing. But I think it's very poetic in how it goes down. It's actually pretty interesting. Right when it happened, I was like, oh shit, man, that's actually pretty cool. So there's a lot of metaphors. There's a lot of symbolism going on in this film, which I think is fantastic. A lot of people will see a film like this and take it for face value, won't look at and think about any of the commentary. They think straight exploitation. We're just seeing full frontal nudity of bald vaginas. There's lots of bald vagina in this movie. It's like really strange. So it actually takes place in 2011. So it wasn't actually modern. Maybe it was made and then it was released in 2017. I have no idea. But the date does say 2017. So, but it's not as exploitive and that I actually thought it was going to be. Like, I don't know, just given the premise, I think rape revenge, you know, kind of telling us all this shit. But I will say though, the initial rape scene in this movie, holy fuck, is it ever violent, dude. There's a part in the rape where the son bites a piece of this girl's cheek off and he like chews it for a bit and he spits it out. I was like, fuck. I was like, holy shit, I've never seen that before, but it caught me off guard. I was like, holy fuck. So that's pretty nasty, but yeah, and it's very visceral, very, very visceral, very nasty and gory and stuff like that. It's a little overdone in this one scene where this girl dies. I thought the gore was a little bit too much for what it was, but the after effects was like, holy goddamn. So, but yeah, no, it's really cool. I mean, I think that they go a little too far with the backstory of our lead villain here. Like there's a whole scene where we have this kind of revolutionary scene where it shows him doing some things and stuff like that. But I guess it kind of makes sense for the story now more that I think about it. I mean, I just finished watching this film, but yeah, you got that whole revolutionary kind of uprising for, you know, the Chilean people and stuff like that, going against this militant, puny government that's, you know, completely vile and despicable. You know, I just couldn't even imagine living under a dictatorship or a government where there's no policing it. Like, they are the police, right? So they can do anything they want. They're not being prosecuted for killing anybody. They go out and rape and pillage and do all this type of shit. Like, how as people could you not start a revolution and uprise against that shit? Like, that is just brutal. And it showcases it quite well here. It's very graphic and it's very visceral. So, yeah, man, I mean, no, I don't really have a whole lot more to say about it. I think overall it's a really, really solid film. It's not going to be for everybody, just put it that way. Like I said, man, if you are a fan of films like Serbian, I'm just only using those examples just because they were films made about their countries, right? Like, Necromantic was made about censorship because Germany was censoring everything, and Jörg Burkhardt said, well, if you want to censor the smallest of shit, I'm going to give you something to censor, hence Necromantic. Serbian Film was another film made against censorship. You want to censor everything, I'm going to give you something to fucking censor, and they did some nasty shit. This one was really kind of telling the story. It wasn't about censorship. I don't know what Chile's history is with censorship. I'm sure it had obviously censorship during the dictatorship, but I don't know. I'm not an expert, so don't. And I do want to say one thing. I really appreciate when I talk about, you know, the histories of these countries, like when I did Tilbury. Someone commented about the history of Iceland and stuff like that. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate the comments, because I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a fucking scholar on every country's history and stuff like that. I had to Google a little bit about Augusto Pinochet, so I didn't know. I knew that they were a dictatorship, but I'd never heard the name before and stuff like that. But it's fun. I really like films like this. I'm not like a big political person, but it's always fun to learn about the history and the atrocities of different things around the world and stuff like that. So, and I think that these type of films are important. Again, from, you know, the visual standpoint, it's a tough watch. It really is a tough watch. And if it sounds like it's up your alley, check it out. I'm not sure if this is readily available anymore because Artsploitation is no longer a company, which is such a fucking shame. They put out so many good movies throughout the years. And this is what I loved about their country, because I always like to explore the world cinema. And they were really, really good at this. Kind of the unsung heroes. It's too bad that they're not around anymore. I just don't know what happened with the company, to be honest. But yeah, this was a solid film. So I'm going to give this one a solid, I don't know, man. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I mean, I'm going to give it 8 for, you know, exposing and just having that type of narrative in the film that really kind of worked for me. Points off a little bit for that one little CG moment and stuff, and maybe the third act could have went. I mean, I would have done a little bit different, but I think it's still, again, very poetic, and it kind of works. It's very solid for what it's trying to do. So, yeah, good stuff though. Good stuff. Trauma. So yeah, that's going to conclude day 12, guys. Tomorrow for day 13, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, actually, I do know what I'm doing tomorrow. I think I do remember, actually. So yeah. So anyways, guys, that's going to conclude day 12, and I'll check you tomorrow, day 13, as usual. Deuces!